All right, today we're going to be talking about how can I find the unit rate if I have a graph. So to graph on a coordinate plane, x tells you how you move and whether you're going to move to the left or the right. So this is going to be our horizontal move. And you'll find that when you move to the left, that's because you have a negative x. And if you're moving to the right, you've got something positive going on there. Now, y is going to tell you to move up or down. And we'll say down or up, just because that means this will be a positive y here, and this will be a negative y, and you'll have that same kind of idea. So this is going to be our vertical move. With our first one right here, we have a table to look at, and we have x 0, y is at 0. So that means we go through the origin. The next time we see that if x is 1, y equals 2. So I'm going to go over 1, and then y tells me it's positive to go up 2. Next one is 2, 4. And so if you haven't noticed, I'm thinking about these like they are ordered pairs. So that's my x term, that's my y term, so I go over 3 and up 6. So my unit rate, when my x is 1, this is going to be my unit rate. That means my unit rate is 2. So my unit rate is wherever my y is. So for 1 of something, I get 2. So my equation is going to be, in order to get my y value, I'm going to have to take my x, I'm going to multiply it times my unit rate, which is 2. And I can graph that straight line. It starts at the origin, just like so. For my next one, you'll notice these are my x's and these are my y's. You'll notice that there's no 1. I start at 2 there. So we're going to have to kind of figure that out. So I'm going to go 2, 4, 6, 8. And up the side, I'm counting by 15s. Now, this is still 0, so that's still my origin. And I'm going to find my unit rate in here because halfway between 0 and 2 is 1. So in order to find the unit rate, halfway between 0 and 15, or 15 divided by 2, so in other words, y divided by x. And I can use any of those, and I should still get the same answer of 7.5. So that means my unit rate, my y value, remember these are my y's, these are my x's, my y value when x equals 1 is 7.5. So to find anything on that table, I should just have to do 7.5 times x. So the number of tickets in this case times 7.5, so $7.50 per ticket. Then that should give me my answer. And I can even use my graph in this case to predict that 10 tickets would cost $75. And it's a graph, it's a line, so it could keep going because I could have more and more and more. So this only works if x and y are proportional. You know they are proportional if the line is straight and it goes through the origin. So now we're going to practice using those skills that we just got. So we've got Sandra making some trail mix here. The graph shows how many cups of nuts she uses compared to the number of cups of dried fruit. And They've told us these are our nuts, and I'm going to go and put that right there just to remind myself. So I've got a 1. I've got something at my 1. And it's my 2, 3, and 4. So since I have points there, I'm going to go ahead and use those. And then this is my fruit. And so when I go to my 1 on my x-axis, I'm at 2 on my y. At 2, I'm at 4. At 4, I'm at 3, rather. I'm at 6. And at 4, I'm at 8. So my unit rate is when I go over to 1, what is my, on x, what is my y value? And that is 2. My ordered pair that represents this is the ordered pair 1, 2. So this is going to be where my unit rate is. And that's because my x equals 1. And it says, what does this unit rate represent? And that means that I'm using 1 cup of nuts to every 2 cups of fruit. So in other words, there is more fruit than there are nuts. There's twice as much. So the equation I could write is y equals 2 times x. And then it says, what does the 0.24 represent? Well, that represents 2 cups of nuts to 4 cups of fruit. And I notice I used that colon. I can write that as a ratio. That is what is going on here. It's a proportional relationship. And the next one, our graph is showing the relationship between pounds of cheese bought at a deli and the total cost in dollars for the cheese. So weight of my cheese to the cost of my cheese. And I have some other points that I'm hitting here. You'll notice at half a pound, it's $2. And when I go over to 1, it's $4. I could go to 1.5. That's $6. And 2 pounds is $8. So my unit rate is going to be right here because this is where my x equals 1. So my unit rate is 4. And that's in money, so it's going to be dollars. Over here, my unit rate, I could have said was in pounds. So what ordered pair represents this? Well, it's the ordered pair 1, 4, because whenever the x equals 1, there's my unit rate is right there. What does this unit rate represent? Well, that means that 1 pound of cheese is $4. My equation is going to be 4 times the number of pounds that I buy will give me my cost. So how many pounds did Erica buy if they spent $12? So y equals 4 times x. My cost is $12. So 4 times something equals $12. I could divide by 4 and get x equals 3 pounds. Can't see that on my graph because it didn't go up that high, so that is the other way that you can do that. Moving to the back, the graph y equals 3 times x on the coordinate plane. It wants me to graph that and identify the unit rate for the graph. Well, the unit rate, I'm looking at it from an equation. I can go right to here. This is my unit rate, conveniently located right below where it's written there. So my unit rate is 3. Well, that means when x is 1, that y must equal 3. So if I go over 1, I can go up 3, and that's where my unit rate is. So now every time I go over 1, I should go up 3 more. Over 1, up 3 more. Over 1, up 3 more. And there is the line that I can graph. My unit rate, once again, is 3. And is it proportional? And the answer is yes. Now, the way I can tell that from a graph is from my equation, rather. My equation is y equals x, 3x. There is nothing over here. Since there's nothing over here, and this is my equation, I know that's a proportional relationship because this tells me if I put in 0 here, I'm going to get 0 here. There's nothing that's going to get added on to that. And my next one over here, it says y equals 1/3 x on the coordinate plane. Identify the unit rate from the graph. Well, I don't even have to go to the graph. Once again, I can look right there in my equation. So my unit rate is 1/3. Now it also means if this is my equation, when I put 0 in for x, I'm going to get 0 for y, which means it goes through the origin. And yes, that means it is proportional. If this is 1/3, I'm sorry, if this is 1, my y will be 1/3. So I might need to count a little differently than counting by ones here. I could still count by ones down here if I wanted to. And then this would be 2/3. And at 3, we would see 3/3, which is equal to 1. And so is this a proportional relationship? It is. It's making a straight line. It's going through the origin. And I can also see that from my equation as well. So there's multiple ways you can tell whether or not it's proportional. Down here, we have this equation. So you remember before when I said there was nothing next to this, right? This right here is going to make this not proportional. And the reason that is, when I take my equation and I substitute 0 in for x, I'm going to get y is equal to 1. So when x is 0, y is equal to 1. So I'm not going to start right here at the origin. I'm going to start up here. And since my graph is not starting at the origin right away, I know it's not proportional. Can I still graph it? Absolutely. So I can graph it as, when I put 1 there, 2 plus 1 is 3. So when I go over 1, I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3. When I put 2 in, I'm going to do 2 times 2 is 4. 4 plus 1 is 5. So up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And when I put 3 in, I'm going to get 7. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now, do I have a unit rate? Now, it's not proportional, and in terms of a unit rate, every time I plug something in, I'm going to have to add 1 to it. So if you are just given an equation, how can you determine if it's proportional? As soon as I see that I'm adding something, now there could also be subtraction going on up there. So if I'm adding or subtracting, then it is not proportional. Alrighty. Our next one says Hardin makes 6 cups of blue paint with 8 cups of yellow paint to make green paint. So these are going to be our cups of yellow paint, and these are going to be our cups of blue paint. So yellow and blue, and we can think this is our X and this is our Y. So it says when he mixed 6 cups of blue paint with... All right, so I might need to pause this and kind of fill you in and stop it, but we're going to do Y divided by X, and so we're going to do 6 divided by 8. Well, 6 divided by 8 reduces down to 3/4. So that means that our unit rate is 3/4. So I don't have a whole cup of blue paint to 1 cup of yellow paint. And so you might do your graph like so. 1 is up to the 3/4 mark. That means 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4. So we might not even put that point on our graph there, but I can see just by doing that work that my unit rate is 3/4. It is proportional, and Y is going to be 3/4 times x. All right, so pause this and check it out because the video is going to end.